Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video by yours truly. Listen, bad news bears for one of our beloved gacha titles. We're all familiar with it. We all played it probably at least once during the past 3 years. Tower of Fantasy. It's not looking good. It's got to pull the good old Teckles. Not looking good, man. No, it's not looking good. Really not. We got to go over some of these details. Maybe you're a Tower of Fantasy player coming to this video expecting to get some insight onto what's actually occurring. Maybe you're not familiar with the business and how things function between a publisher and a developer. I'm here to hopefully alleviate that and provide a little bit more help as to what's going on and maybe what you guys should prepare for. It does look like they are heading in the direction of EOS, but it hasn't been confirmed. And why would it be confirmed by any business owner? Why would you say, oh, guys, we might be going in a EOS direction when you have thousands of people who play your game, who've invested tons of time, money, and cope into the game as well? Of course, you're not going to come and outright say this, but after I explain to you what's occurring with the objective facts that are on the screen in front of me, as well as my insight as to how business functions, you might understand why I am speculating that we could potentially be seeing EOS. Okay, so on December 24th, Christmas Eve, that's a hell of a day to put out the news. Tower of Fantasy's official English Twitter account put out a message. They said, "Dear authorizers, thank you for your continued support. We would like to inform you that starting February 23rd of 2025, the global versions of Tower of Fantasy will be operated by Perfect World Games." Perfect World Games is the parent company of Hada Studios. Hada Studios is the subsidiary that develops Tower of Fantasy. So now Perfect World Games is essentially going to be their new publisher. Now we're going to get into the specifics on how this is. Honestly, from what I know based off of business, this is bad in my personal opinion, but we're going to get into it. I'll explain exactly why. First, we got to get into some important details. Dear authorizers, Level Infinite would like to share some important news about Tower of Fantasy. This was their previous publisher who has to fulfill their contractual obligation until February 23rd, by the way. Starting from February 23rd, the game will be published, operated, and managed by Perfect World Games, the parent company of Hada Studio. Again, I want to let you guys understand this. This essentially means in business terms, February 23rd, Level Infinite, our contractual obligations have concluded. We are not renewing a contract. In other words, we don't believe that Tower of Fantasy is worth investing in going forward any further. We think this game is, I hope I don't gotta spell it out for you guys. All right, please accept the transfer of your Tower of Fantasy data to a Perfect World account. In order to ensure your game progress, your virtual currency items and purchase services remain unaffected. We're committed to making the transition to a new publisher for Tower of Fantasy as seamless as possible. Rest assured, our servers will remain active until February 23rd, ensuring you can continue enjoying the same high-quality gaming experience you've come to love. It's so funny it's funny when you know PR talk, right? Trying to make things sound great. Oh, don't worry, everything's all fine. Let me break down this shit for y'all in business terms, man. The reason they're telling you have to accept new transfer terms, right, to a Perfect World account in order to ensure everything doesn't get wiped is because the previous publisher they were doing a business deal with the distributors from the platforms like, I don't know, Google, Apple, Steam, Infinite Level account, whatever account you made. That was a business deal that was occurring between Level Infinite and those distributors. But now that the contractual obligation has concluded, that means now there has to be a new contract agreement between Perfect World Games and those distributors. So they have to literally force you guys to transfer your data. They don't have a choice. This is how business works, guys. But here's the problem here. Level Infinite Games is not Level Infinite Games. Level Infinite Games is Tencent. All right, let's come over here. Bloop. Tencent Interactive Entertainment Group, Level Infinite owner, right? Brands, Level Infinite Dreaming Plan. They're giving up on Tower of Fantasy, guys. Tencent has officially gave up on Tower of Fantasy. Now, why would you ask? You might be asking yourself, why are they called Level Infinite? Why don't they just call themselves Tencent? This is common business practice with business conglomerates and corporations to diversify their image in the form of multiple images. Why would they do that? It's never good in the eye of public perception when one company is owning so many things. So it's good business practice to convince the public that you're not one entity, you're multiple entities. When in reality, you just Papa Bear, bro. You know what I'm saying? Over here with my big ass sand castles everywhere. Public does not like seeing somebody owning everything. It just doesn't look good, right? It looks like tyranny. Anyways, now that you understand how that's actually playing out there, it's important for the community to grasp what a publisher's job is. Okay, because a publisher's job is very fucking important, especially in live service gacha game models. The publisher, Tencent, was with Tower of Fantasy for the past 3 years, and their funding towards the game is very imperative for the game's life force. Okay, update to update, that belongs to the publisher. The business relationship between the content creators getting paid for making content, that's the deal going through the publisher. Okay, the price points of the monetizations inside of the game, that goes through the publisher. The publisher also handles the operation to ensure that the game is running smooth and fluid. As I'm listing out all of these jobs, and I'm not listing out all of them, there's even more roles of the publisher. It essentially handles the business of the game. The developer develops the game. They make the game enjoyable. They're the reason why you support the game. You like the developer, you like their work. But the business of the game, to secure a profit, belongs to the publisher. So all of that funding that they're doing is because they are investing in the game and they believe the game's going to continue to bring them a profit despite all the funding that's going into it. They're still seeing a profit. Now, all of that funding they were doing with all of those jobs I just explained to you is falling onto Perfect World Games, the parent company of Hada Studios. So now, not only is Perfect World Games funding the development of the game, they're funding the development and the publishing of the game. And here's the problem. As a business, do I want to take on that excess funding expenses? Do I want to now take on all that spending that Tencent was doing and put it into my pocket on top of the spending I'm already doing for the development of the game when it's going downhill? I'm not trying to shit on your game. If you're a Tower Fantasy viewer, I'm only keeping it a buck with you. You might want to be bracing yourself in the near future for an end of service. By the near future, I mean, it could be in the next 6 months to a year, possibly, because what's going to happen is they're going to go, damn, now we're spending this much money, but we're still only bringing in this much money. Oh shit, we're in the negative here, right? Now, there's a possibility that Perfect World Games can be insanely based and be like, you know, we love our community. We don't need to make a profit on Tower Fantasy. Yeah, there's also a possibility that Donald Trump's gonna pay me and everyone in America $4,000 for the rest of our lives every 2 weeks, and we don't have to work. Guys, sorry, but that's just, it ain't all sunshine and rainbows out there. These companies are here to make money, and if Tower of Fantasy does not start like heading uphill, which its reputation isn't the best, to be fair, it really isn't. You could very well see Perfect World Games making the reasonable decision, by the way, and going, we got NTE coming out. We got some good momentum going with it. Tower of Fantasy has served us well, but we can't find a new investor. Because here's the other thing. If they can find a new publisher who believes in Tower of Fantasy, a new investor, then they're good to go too. But who are they going to convince that Tower of Fantasy in its current state is worth being a publisher for and funding it so that they can secure profit? Most importantly, a profit. Both of them, developer and the goddamn the publisher. It's highly unlikely. You see where I'm going with this? So maybe there's a possibility that Perfect World Games actually has a 5 billion IQ business model strategy to ensure that Tower of Fantasy not only climbs out of that fucking ditch it's in, but it also starts climbing upward and starts gaining momentum again. Again, guys, I'm here to tell it to you straight. I'm talking to the Tower Fantasy community. I don't even play the fucking game, right? I'm just trying to make sure you guys are understanding what's actually occurring and not listening to this fucking PR talk on Twitter. It's highly likely that it's going to be approaching its end here soon, okay? And you might want to brace for that, despite you doing account transfers and all that shit, because this is what's going on next. So after they put that out, they did, I'm scrolling up here, but they did also say, dear authorizer, thank you for your continued support. Following the publisher change, we would like to inform that starting from February 23rd, TOF creator space will be closed. Creators, if you're asking yourself, why are they closing the space? They have to. As I told, now that I've explained to you the role of a publisher, Now they have to establish a new business strategy with their creators. Perfect World Games does. And that involves them now talking to you, right? Like you're dealing with completely different people now. And those people now have to establish a relationship with you and say, hey, this is what we're going to pay you. Do you want to accept that term or not? Right? You were dealing with Tencent previously. Now you're dealing with them. So it's important to grasp how that functions. Now, thank you for your continued support. They update it later on the day. We would like to inform you that starting February 23rd, the global version of Tower Fantasy will be operated by Perfect World Games. What I just explained to you, they are now the developer and the publisher. The Hada Studios is the developer, but Perfect World, literally, they own Hada Studios. So link Tower Fantasy Global. They put a link out so that you guys can explain what's exactly happening. And what they said in this link, we don't have to read all of it. They essentially said you have until February 23rd to obviously transfer over all of your data and stuff. And you have to accept that transfer, because if you don't, your accounts will be wiped. They will be deleted. And as I told you, they have to be deleted because they're the ones with the new business establishment with the distributors. So you have to. You dead ass. You ain't got no choice, bro. This ain't no picnic. Okay, here we are. It says, what if I do not consent to the Tower Fantasy data transfer? As I told you, they're going to delete your shit pretty much. But they're giving you dates as to when that would occur if you didn't do it. All related Tower of Fantasy data under your Level Infinite account will be deleted on April 30th. So you have until April 30th to make sure you secure that account transfer. If you're trying to keep all that, sunk cost fallacy that you put into Tower of Fantasy, your account, all the characters you own and everything you've done, the time, resources, and commitment, blood, sweat, and tears that you put into that account, make sure it's done by April 30th if you have a Level Infinite account. These servers, the Level Infinite servers, the Tencent servers, are shutting down on February 23rd. And then new servers are going to be opened up by Perfect World Games, right? So I want to make sure that's clear too, because I can understand how the public, the community could be confused on what's actually happening. I'm trying my hardest to convey these things so that you guys have explicit clarity as to what's occurring. So make sure that they're going to put out let me find that actually. Oh, the authorization page will be open from December 27th to April 24th. That's a lot of time. Okay, so we have January, February, March, April. Oh, actually, it ain't that much time. It's enough time, right? But when I say it's not enough time, it could be debated for that. Some people don't keep up with Tower Fantasy month to month. Some people might take a 4-month break, 5-month break, 6-month break. Oh, you took a 4-month break? Well, account gone, bucko. Sucks to suck. So make sure if you're trying to save your account that within the dates of December 27th and April 24th, you are doing this. You need to confirm on this page. They're going to give you an authorization page whether you agree to this data transfer. Of course, you're going to fucking agree, unless you want your account to be ripped. After the change of publisher, Tower Fantasy will adhere to the new publisher privacy policy. Please read it carefully before authorizing. Okay, yada yada yada. So that's pretty much the gist of it all. I'll be honest. I don't think anybody's surprised that this is occurring, except maybe the Tower of Fantasy players, guys. Listen, I actually don't think Tower of Fantasy. I actually went to bat for it a lot of times this year. Everybody else just says, "Oh, it's horrible. It's a fucking dog shit 0 out of 10 game." I actually thought it was good, man. The problem is they tried to make a gacha game an MMO, and I just think the infrastructure and dynamic of gacha games simply will never ever make sense with the dynamic of an MMO. I think the game had good bones and a foundation, but there were certain elements of it that ultimately led to its current downfall and in position that it's in. But I want to tell you one more time, TOF fans, listen, I'm not your enemy. I'm trying to just keep it real with you. If Tencent did not renew their contract with TOF, Tencent, somebody who understands business in the gaming industry, outside the gaming industry, but let's keep it to the gaming industry. They have a bird's eye view on every sector in the platform, in the gaming industry. They have secured numerous contracts. They've seen numerous games over the course of their entire lifespans, trending upward, downward, right? They're able to make calls and pivot when they need to pivot. If that occurred, you might be looking at that. You might want to brace yourself for TOF eventually coming to the, to the good old stomping grounds of the Shadow Realm. And you might want to just start waiting for NTE, their next project that they're working on, which actually has an insanely based developer team that I like a lot. Food for thought. I just wanted to relay this information so you guys weren't confused. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.